Thank you. Okay, here we go. So we are last we left our heroes. They were discussing the laws of what happens when we own an animal in partnership with a non-Jew. You know, obviously that if a Jew owns the animal may not do work. Yes, even the animal may not do work. Good morning, Richie. We're going to find you a chair. But the animal may not do work because the Torah says that a Jewish-owned animal cannot do work. We're Reish Mem Vav. We're in the middle of Sif Hay. So if you're in the packet that I handed you, I'm glad I made so many copies. Sif, it's Reish Mem Vav. Sif Hay. We're going to reread for the beginning of Hay, though we're not going to do every mission of Brewer because so again, Reish Mem Vav, Sif Hay, and we'll reread Hay from the beginning momentarily. So remember, we were talking about that if the animal is owned by a Jew, we have the prohibition of Shvisas Behemto, that the animal can't do any kind of malacha. It's just not allowed. The Torah says that you and your children and your animals, your servants and your animals can't do work. What happens if it's jointly owned? That was what we were discussing. And so let's just quickly review. I think it's good to do that after about a month that we haven't met. So let's start from the beginning of Sif Hay again, Siman Reish Mem Vav, Sif Hay, and we will we'll see that we'll hopefully remember some cases, and then we'll continue in the Mishnah Berurah from where we left off previously. Okay. Im Yisrael ve'eno Yehudi shutafim b'behema. A Jew and a non-Jew jointly own an animal. Mutar lasos ba eino Yehudi malacha b'Shabbos. The non-Jew can use this jointly owned animal to do malacha on Shabbos. Al yedei sheyasna im ha'eino Yehudi b'tchila. As long as the Jew makes a stipulation with the non-Jew at the beginning of their partnership, the very beginning, the stipulation in the deal from the very get-go was that the non-Jew takes the full ownership rights over the animal on Shabbos, and the Jew in correspondence probably takes a Sunday or one of the other days of the week where they have full control, full access, full profits, you might say, from that animal on the given day of the week, and therefore circumventing the problem of it being a Jewishly owned animal on Shabbos, because it's not really Jewishly owned when it comes to Shabbos, because that was the deal from the get-go. I had nothing to do with Shabbos, and my deal that I had with the person that I get Sunday in place of Saturday. Well, normally we would say a deal like that is called Schar Shabbos, where I'm getting a benefit because of a deal I made related to Shabbos. But here we don't say that because the deal was made from the get-go. So as the Mishnah Berurah has put it in other contexts, so we saw I have nothing to do with Shabbos. I'm out of the picture. And then from the beginning, I had nothing to do with Shabbos. So therefore, that deal is good. And that's why V'im lo hisnu, if you don't make such a stipulation, mitchila, from the beginning, osir, the arrangement is prohibited. Even if I say, afal pisha hisnu achar kach, even though later on I'll say, you take Saturday, I'll take Sunday. No good, because now my receiving the full benefits on Sunday is in some ways because of a transaction that I did on Saturday by saying you take all of Saturday. So I am directly benefiting from a deal I made that is highlights only Shabbos. Again, when you make business deals that only relate to Shabbos and not in a larger, where Shabbos is part of a larger subset, it's part of a larger set, then it's a problem. If Shabbos is what we call the Havlah, it's part of other days of the week, there are less issues halachically that the rabbis have with it. Again, the whole issue of Schar Shabbos is the Rabbanan, and the rabbi said the Havlah, it's not an issue. It's clear from the Gemara, it's clear as daylight. So here we have a problem if you don't make this stipulation ahead of time. That's what we had talked about previously. That's where we had gotten up to in the Mishnah Berurah to explain this. which was a concept that was sort of revisited from an earlier topic when we talked about kalim, when we talked about items that are jointly owned. Here we're talking about the animal, and here, even though there's an Isser D'Oraisa kind of hanging in the background there with the animal, unlike with the kalim, where and with our vessels, there's no prohibition on a biblical level. Nonetheless, here we don't worry about the prohibition about shvisas behemto if from the get-go we really withdraw anything to do with, for ourselves from the animal at anything that happens on Shabbos with that animal. Okay, so far any questions before we continue on? That was just a little review. Now it gets a little more dicey. When I was preparing this, I read this over at least 6-7 times. I was like, I wanted to make sure. Okay, here we go. Ready? Let's say you lend the animal to a non-Jew with a halva gemura. Now I have to define what's a halva gemura. What's a complete loan, or it's what as opposed to a half a loan, and a gemura as opposed to not. So he explains here: you give permission to the non-Jew who is borrowing again. No, not borrowing. He's paying for it. He's leasing. Yeah, I guess that's the word. I'm lending it out to him. What's the word in English?
Renting.
No, that's not renting.
Lessee.
He's a lessee, right? So he has permission, part of this lease agreement, or part of this loan, that he has full permission lahutzia. What's lahutzia? He can not just take it out. He can turn around and say, I could sell it. Lahotzia. He has the ability to do whatever he would like with this animal. Imirtza, if you like, even without the Jew. He doesn't have to go back to the Jew who lent this to him in the first place and say, can I do such and such with your animal? No, part of the deal was you can do this. V'yizkof hadamim al ha'eno Yehudi va'achrayus hashvarim al ha'eno Yehudi mutter. And what do? You create a situation where the loan can be turned into money. So you talk about the market value of the animal, and now you basically say, you owe me back money. I'm okay if you give me back the animal, but I'm also okay if you give me back just the money, the value of the animal. And what you do here is also when at the moment of this transaction. So what happens? I give the non-Jew the animal. At the moment of the loan, what's he giving me? Probably some sort of, maybe he's not paying the whole thing, I would assume, or maybe he's, I don't know, it's a loan, but some money is owed to me, maybe up front a little bit, but certainly at some point he has to pay the rest of the money. So what's so unique about this? Isn't just the money a stand-in for the animal, and I'm still making money off the animal that's really my animal? So when we say v'yizkof hadamim, the money essentially becomes really what needs to be returned to me. And that it's not this point that the animal has to be returned. And that's v'yizkof hadam ala eno yehudi va'achrayus hashvarim. And this is the key. The responsibility, the financial responsibility of, here he uses the case of oxen, is on the non-Jew. What does that mean? That means, let's say he takes the ox, he has it for a month. The price of oxen, it dips dramatically, or it goes up. He could actually make money or lose money in this situation, because when he has to return it to me, the ox is worth now double. So I'm looking good here. So I get back when he returns it to me. I get an ox that's worth double. So and he has to. Meaning any increase or decrease in the value of the ox, the responsibility financially is borne by the non-Jew in this case. And if he has such a chrayus, if he has such a responsibility, a financial burden, number one, he can actually sell it. He can do what he wants. He can do whatever he wants. And he's responsible financially for any loss, or if he could actually gain right, money in this situation, then it's mutter. Because while yes, the animal in name is really owned by me, the achrayus, the complete financial burden, is borne out by the non-Jew, and that's enough, not mine, that we say that there's no isser of shvisas behemto. That's what this halacha comes from a tshuva of the Ritzvah. This, again, this case was not in the Gemara, but this is his extrapolation of the halacha, that if you're so removed from the actual animal that it's okay. Let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah here, just to make sure we understand this case.
It's like you're selling it with the proviso that I can undo the sale. Because if you're selling it, he has the financial responsibility for whatever happens.
Correct. It's not exactly a sale, but there are lots of elements of a sale here where suddenly the buyer bears responsibility for everything that happens to the animal, bein l'tov, bein l'ra, and also that he can do whatever he wants with the animal. He doesn't have to return the animal. Ultimately, he can return the value of that animal.
What happens if you have a set price for a certain amount of time? How does that?
So that's a problem, right? So then, if he has to return, if I'm understanding your case correctly, if there has to be a return,
like a week.
No, that's fine. That there's a time limit on it, I think is fine. But it's how the financial arrangement is made between the two parties here that matters. Take a look at the Mishnah Berurah here. Chaf Hey. The Yiskov Hadamim. Hainu Shishamota Bedamim Kfi Ma Shehi Achsha. Meaning, you make the agreement based on what it is worth today, right? So you're going to pay me back today's value. So if it goes, let's say the ox is worth $100 today, market value, my ox. And then price goes down a month later, ox is worth $50. Doesn't matter, I made money now. You owe me $100 for that ox. That's the deal, right? It's $100 when I gave it to you. You owe me $100. If it goes up, great. So now he owes me $100, and he gets the difference. He gets he can keep the other 100. Maybe I even have to, again, I don't know how you cash that out. I guess maybe I'd have to pay him, because if it goes up and he just owes me back I guess he doesn't. He gains the benefit during the month. He would sell. That's probably what he would do. Correct. See, excellent. Yeah, he would sell it probably, and then just give me the money because he wants to capture the benefit there. Absolutely, yeah. So look, he says, if it goes up, the price goes up, or the value goes down, meaning that's all on him, on the person who is the lessee. And even so, you should still stipulate, in addition to the fact that he bears the full financial responsibility, you should still say to this non-Jew, stipulate to the non-Jew that the reshus is in your hands. You can do what you want. You want to turn around and sell this thing, you have that kind of power. And if that is the type of arrangement, then it's okay to stipulate. It's like the yesh omrim that we saw in the previous sif. Sifdal, remember, we're there. If the yesh omrim was that if the non-Jew accepts achrayus of that since the non-Jew there, we said the yesh omrim said if the non-Jew can't sell it, then it's still called behemas yisrael. So here we're saying you can sell it. So number one, the non-Jew can sell it. And number two, he bears the full financial, he or she bears the full responsibility financially, and therefore it is an okay arrangement for the Jew to make. That is an important part of this, that the non-Jew has that ability to sell the animal. Therefore, it is not Israel technically for the purposes of this halacha.
So that they're saying that if I sell the animal, can I owe you the money? So therefore, whatever I sell it for, I can give you back. Is that what they're saying? I can give you the money. I can give you.
At the end, you have to give back the value. You give back the value, or you can give back the ox. Yeah.
This term Yisko.
Yes. So whenever there's whatever, this term comes up in the Gemara, Yizkof, Zakaf alav b'milveh, it means that I think you create you establish a value of exactly. That I'm trying to look. There's a word here. I looked it up in the Jasper, by the way, and I was preparing because I want to have a good.
Okay, this ox is worth $100 now.
Right.
Take is a day. Give me back at the end of Shabbos or give me back. So
the only problem with your situation is that you made a transaction that has only with Shabbos. If you did that for like a week, that's fine. But yes, let's say you do it for a week. Exactly. Shabbos is included in the deal.
He sees that the market value is going way up. He takes it out to the market.
And he goes and sells it.
And he sells the ox for $500. He gives you back at the end of the week, whatever.
The value was at the beginning of the week. Okay, so Zakfa here. So I went to the Jasper, so it was a good thing to, when you want to get a technical definition here, right? So it means to Zak of Milva means to obligate, to establish a loan, to obligate and join upon. So when you say Zakaf B'damim, you establish this loan in terms of the monetary value of what it is today, right? And it's not that you're asking for the actual ox back, you're asking for the value of the money.
Literal means to straighten up.
Correct, that's what he said, to straighten up, yes,
Establish a value.
on what it is right now, yeah.
So the value is not stipulated in the contract right up front?
Well, it could be, meaning you have to know what the price of the ox is,
If the non-Jew sells it on Shabbos, I paid $100 for the thing, and I asked the value is not 500, and he sells it on Shabbos, I'm not entitled to $400. The profit. because
No.
I sold it.
That according in this arrangement, it depends how your arrangement is. You agreed that exactly, and you're going to get the value at that moment back
At the end
of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the whatever. If Steve's right, by the way, if it goes up, you could expect it will be sold. If not, you could expect to get your ox back.
Could have made, and if I made an agreement that I would get 20% of whatever the increase was, if it was an increase, that would violate this, because the principle is still the same.
Correct.
And
That's
if
correct.
the animal is injured or died, it's tough luck for the lessee.
Exactly.
Still owes you
Exactly.
the
Still owe the
complete-
money back. Exactly. You can't pay me back in a carcass. Yeah.
Hurts when
It
it's
becomes like a show.
In some ways,
But it's more
Shlomo.
like a contingent sale, because it's actually a sale, but it's contingent on what the price.
On
is
what's
at
going to
the
be,
end.
what's
Yeah.
going to be the future of this animal.
It's a way of demonstrating that this animal is now totally in control of Yehudi.
Right.
He wants to use this animal on Shabbos. It's up to him.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
The fact that he could go so far as to sell it.
means I have very little to do with this animal anymore.
got all the benefits of ownership.
Exactly.
There's no benefits of ownership, and therefore it's not in the Jew's control. And if the
Exactly.
animal works on Shabbos, the Jew doesn't care.
That's right. Take a look back upstairs now. V'yesh matir, back in the Shulchan Aruch. V'yesh matir mafil lo yehei rishus b'yad ha'eno Yehudi lo hotziam. Some want to even say that it's okay, even if the non-Jew doesn't have the ability lahotziam to sell the animal. How could this be? Al yadei sheyizkov hadamim. You have this. You establish the loan at the moment of the value at the moment of the loan. Al ha'eno Yehudi b'milveh v'yachzor ha'eno Yehudi v'yaseh apoteke. And then the non-Jew then establishes in return with the Jew an apoteke. What's an apoteke? An apoteke is very clever. I guess this is the shot. I don't even know. The word apoteke appears in the Gemara. He explains it as this: in Perish, apotehe ka'e, that the word comes from apo, which I think literally means like his face.
Limited liability.
His face, tehei ka'e should be in front of you, meaning, kolomar lo yehei lecha piron ela mizeh. Meaning that when you pay back with ox, right? I need to see the face of the ox again. When this isn't my last time I'm going to see my ox. So I am lending it out, and an apoteke means I establish almost a pledge, right? That this, so therefore, when he's holding on, he's holding on, he's holding that animal, I don't want to say hostage, but that animal has to be returned to me. So let's look here. Yisrael. Oh, Yahar. I'll explain this in a second. Give me a second. Oh, Yahar Hanem Etzlo. Yahar Hanem. He writes here in the. I don't even know if this is the Ramah, by the way. My suspicion is this is not the Ramah who wrote this. Yishmael Rahan. In Arabic, apparently the language for a mashkon, for a security or pledge, is Rahan. So Yahar Hanem Etzlo. You give it to him as a security or a pledge. As long as you don't say that I own it retroactively from now. So let's look at the Mishnah Berurah here to explain.
Go over that one more time, what happens in this case?
Yeah. So so we have here, right? So this opinion saying that even if the non-Jew, let's say in an arrangement, doesn't have the ability to sell the animal. And the part of this arrangement was we have an agreement, a loan agreement, a financial loan agreement. And he's turning around and saying, he makes an apoteke that which means that I only want to be paid with X, meaning the animal, or similarly, like you have it, the animal becomes a mashkon. Let's say the non-Jew takes out a loan. The Jew would like some sort of security that you're going to actually pay me back. And if you don't pay me back, this thing becomes mine, or at least I have a lien on it. So that thing that he has a lien on is the animal. I think what maybe is confusing here is the original arrangement. This my gut tells me the original arrangement here is not that he lent out the animal and then the animal became the thing that goes back as the security. That makes no sense, right? Why would you loan something out and then take? It's a loan arrangement. The animal here is being used as the security. Okay, so here we have a situation where I have a lien on the animal or something like that, but it's not really mine. Can the non-Jew use it? Well, it's technically it could become mine at one point. Understand? Later on.
You're saying that you lend me an ox, and as collateral, you take a lien on the ox.
No, I think that makes no sense. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that makes sense. I think what I'm saying is we have a deal, something else. We have an arrangement.
It does make sense if he's now effectively the owner. If he's effectively the owner of the animal, he can use it as
Not the owner
security.
in the sense that I've got to return something.
Yeah, but it's like a fudge,
It's
you
like
know?
taking 50 loans on the same property.
Yeah.
The animal is as a collateral and another transaction. That's what you're saying. What?
Let's read the Mishnah Berurah. I hope this will help clarify. Let's read it here. He says here, "Umayri gam kein shehilva osa la'eno Yehudi, v'sham osa b'damim." Actually, he says it's the same case. Yeah, you're right. You have the animal. It's a little bit weird. You have the animal. There was a loan of the animal. They agree on a price at that moment. Here's the market value, right? V'sham osa b'damim. Okay, they make this loan agreement that it's what it is today, what's the value today. But they add one more step here. Now what happens? He basically says, you can use it, you can do whatever you want. You can't sell it basically because I want this back. So you have all the rights that we talked about before. Price goes up, price goes down, you get the achrayus. You can make money, you could lose money. Even though I took away his ability to sell it, everything else from our previous discussion still stands. Price goes up, he benefits. At the end, I guess I have to pay him.
How does he benefit? He can't sell.
So I assume that the end, when he returns it, that the Jew will have to pay him, I guess.
Pay the value.
I assume he has to pay him the value. Otherwise, you're right. Why is he doing this arrangement in the first place? If it goes down, so he loses, and now the Jew still gets his 100. Well, the truth is, I don't know if he really lose though, because at the end he still gives him back the ox. I'm not sure how he benefits him completely.
Trying to think of it like in terms of renting a car, right?
Yeah,
Instead of-
leasing a car,
yeah,
right.
So you lease a car.
Yeah.
And there are defined terms.
Residual
when
value.
when you put return.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like that. Yeah. residual value.
Yeah, 'cause
Right.
I just finished my lease. And you even come up with $16,000 to buy the car, but the market value went up to like $26,000.
Right. So you buy the
Right.
car for 16 and then you sell it.
But if the deal was I had to give them back the car no matter what, then I get the extra $10,000.
No.
Right. So this is why it's a little bit interesting. He wants him to pay him. He wants this.
Who gets the extra $10,000?
Right. So that's why I'm. That's why I'm thinking. I would think in such an
Are
arrangement.
they still in business?
I would think that you still have to have the other part here. Let's read one more here in the Mishnah Berurah, and then let's discuss this. Yahar Hanei Metzlo, which is a similar case about I take a pledge and basically or a mashkon, meaning not just I want you to return it. I literally sort of have it's in my as the Jew. It's weird, right? The animal's in my. I have a lien on it. Like it's in my. I got to keep it in my yard. I want to keep a close eye on it. So he says here, Perish Afalpishi Anicham Biyad Yisrael Lamashkon. He leaves it in the Jew's hands as a mashkon, as a pledge. That so that that I should be able to repay you from this. If I don't give you, this is a situation if I don't give you the money, meaning I don't necessarily need the animal back, but if I don't get the animal back, then I can take the animal. Meaning I'm okay with the money or the animal.
Is there a difference?
One second. What does the Donju do? He comes, he takes the animal, and he goes ahead and he does work with the animal. This is still okay because the actual animal is still in the reshus of the non-Jew when this happens.
I mean, physically, there's issues.
I think again because he bears the financial responsibility here. I believe that it stays. I believe that it's it's in the Jew's yard.
It's in the Jews'
But
yard.
it's a mashkon. A mashkon. A classic case of mashkon is I loaned you money. I take something as a security. So here it's the animal as a security. So it's technically his right now. He transacted to have the access to this.
So the Jew loaned the non-Jew money. Took his own offices.
He took I believe again, this is why it's a little bit of it's a confusing case because the ox really is the Jews. He then lends it to the non-Jew. He then takes this, he gives it as a security so that
Tell me about the
yeah.
ox doing work on Shabbos.
Right.
Yeah, whether this arrangement is permitted so that if it were to be used on Shabbos, it's okay.
The whole
Right,
thing is a
right.
fiction to allow you to get your ox back and him to use it on Shabbos.
Essentially, this is I don't want to say it's a legal loophole, but it's a legal loophole.
Is there a difference, what I want to get into, is there a difference between the price per day or opposed to a weekly price?
One sec, Michael. Let me just take
I
this.
just want to put the question out there. See what you
Here.
can do.
Let me. I just want to read. I want to read with you the.
Signify that it's a security for one, and it can only be a security.
Oh, you wanted some money? I'll go.
We'll just read. I want to read with you the what the Aruch HaShulchan here says, and then we'll pause for today. I want to make sure I'm reading the right part. Yisrael wrote to Ishta.
You see a supermarket, you know, but the guy wants to use the guy should use.
Yeah, so he takes it out, he uses it, returns it to the garbage.
Store.
Okay, so he says here in Hay,
It depends on.
Yiroi li hadavar pashut, Yisrael va'era yishita. I'm just reading the whole part he says about Hay. When the Jew and non-Jew are partners, over Yisrael shvisas behemdo. Yachol limchos bo mechuyav limchos. Eno yachol limchos lo yishtat efimo elva ofer heter kmoshis bar. 5. V'chein kasav b'tshuvas haritzla balatostos. V'zeh l'shono. Shasha'alta al Yisrael ve'ero sheyesh lehem b'shutfus sados ushvar. They share partnership between a field and the ox in there. Yishvil hasados ein iser b'chul. We've talked about fields. That was the topic we talked about. How do you have a partnership in a field? The other mitzvah al shvisas behemto. The Eino Motze Takana Ino Jim for the Ritzba, who was around the Balatos, who says this is a much more of a big problem unless you have some sort of sale arrangement. Okay. He then says, "Ima Yisrael wrote to Ishtate, Ima Eino Yidu Behema Osem Malacha Yasek Moshe Kosu B'Simna Kodem B'Shut B'Sadeh Otanu Amerchatz. I don't see Yasek Imo Tanai B'Shas Kniel." He's talking about the Tanai. Fine. Makom Hefsed Yichlom Gam Lachlok B'Shava. We talked about that also. As Afilu in Achrayus Shneim Shava B'Chol Min Hashavua Mutar the Sof Sof Harei Hisna B'Shav Yom Hashavet Sikula Shal Eino Yidu. Lo Hisna B'Tchila. Okay, we talked about that. Okay. Okay, fine. Next, he says here, okay, go back and redo that thing. Here's how you can do this arrangement also. You give him a complete halva. That we talk about. You make the loan arrangement with the monetary value at the time. And this non-Jew, remember they were, I guess, initially, they were jointly owning this. How post meaning, sorry, this is essentially a pledge that if you don't pay me back, if I don't get the monetary value back, you don't pay me, you fail to pay me, I can take the animal. Meaning we have a loan arrangement where it is yours. You can't sell it because in case you don't pay me back, I want to be able to take this animal back. So you can do whatever you want with it. It's essentially yours. Price goes up, price goes down. You pay me back the market value. I don't need the animal back, but you have to pay me back. But you can't do it. The non-Jew can't sell it. That's what he's clarifying. The non-Jew can't sell it in the interim because that is, if you fail to pay me, that's what I want back. Right? So in theory, one day he could sell it. Correct. Because he bears the full responsibility of it. It's just a technicality. He can't sell it right now because I have a slight lien on it right now that if you don't pay me back with money, I take exactly that back. And he says here, sorry, Mike, let me just make sure, I want to clarify this before we break today, and I'll take your question afterwards. I collect it from the animal. But the non-Jew might want this situation. He's like, I don't want you to collect something else from me. I have an unpaid loan. I don't want you to come after my other stuff. So he dafka wants him to come after the behemoth if I can't pay you back. And that's why he wants to make the apotheke with the Yisrael, because he wants to protect his other property. if he doesn't pay back in money. He can pay back the monetary value. Or he returns as a pledge that the animal by. He says you have a lien on this. And then, so the Jew is holding on to it. And what does the non-Jew do? He's a wise guy. I don't know if it's completely legal. He just comes back to get his behema that he's a lessee on. Yehudi notla the ovedba, and the non-Jew takes it and he starts doing work with it. And the non-Jew says to the Jew, if I don't pay you back, yeah, fine, you'll collect from the behema, but the behema is mine right now. And so whether the Jew, whether it has to be paid back in the apoteke where you have to pay back only in this, or the Jew takes the animal as the mashkon, whatever it is, however the arrangement is, that is mutter, because essentially, again, the only reason the sale can't happen is because there's a lien on the animal right now. And but this animal very well has nothing, will never see the face of the Jew again. Meaning they may never see each other again because he may only get money. He's zoher, and this is the last part of this, which he said, as long as you don't say it me'achshav, meaning that if I don't pay you, that retroactively, from the moment of this transaction when we made the exchange, the animal was always yours from the beginning, which has financial ramifications. He doesn't spell this out. What's the ramification? Payros. If the animal gives birth during this time, there's a baby, there's a calf now. The cow gives birth to a calf. Who owns the calf? Well, who owned the animal at the time when the baby was born? If you say it was me'achshav, it was retroactively owned by the Jew, well, then I get to keep the payros. If you say no, that the transfer of ownership happens when I fail to pay you back, that it comes to the date of the payment is due and I fail, then the little baby calf is owned by the non-Jew. So as long as you don't say it's me'achshav, because what's the problem with me'achshav? The animal was always a Jewishly owned animal, and then the work was done on Shabbos with that animal. It turns out lemafreya, it was an isser of shvisas behemta. So it is a very complicated case. I wouldn't recommend getting involved in such a situation. But correct. And so, but the point here is the cow dies, of course. That's also the problem. Correct. So again, it's very complicated. I'm sorry, it took me, again, I told you I prepared this at least 5-6 times, and even again, it was complicated, but I think we came to a good place here where you even have a heter here, and we'll see the Ramah will say it's okay to rely on this, that even if it can't be sold, but essentially the animal is completely in the rishus of the Eino Yehudi, you're good to go, and the arrangement is fine.
What we need is an animal.
So
All we need is the animal to make this happen now. Take care, Richard. We'll continue next week. We'll finish this simon next week.
The animal dies.
Next week we'll see that also that even if there is less bias than what we've talked about, it will still be okay. Yes.
If the animal dies.
Okay, Steve. Take care. Any questions? Good.
Yep, we're good.
I'm glad we worked through that. I don't know if it was clear to you at first. But
Yeah, that worked very well. Okay.
take care, Steve.
If the animal dies, then